Chuck Schumer just detonated a political bomb that no one saw coming. In the middle of a defense bill debate, he quietly filed an amendment that could finally blow open the Epstein files, the same documents that politicians, prosecutors, and agencies have buried for years. No summaries, no redactions, no spin. Every page, every name, out in the open. And within seconds of that announcement, Washington went into damage control mode. Because for the first time in years, someone in power isn't asking for permission. He's demanding the truth. For decades, the Epstein case has lived in the shadows, a mix of sealed documents, whispered connections, and unspoken rules that keep the powerful safe.
See you all. So look, what the Republicans have proposed is not good enough to meet the needs of the American people and not good enough to get our votes. Democrats have always said we need to meet the needs of the American people, particularly when it comes to costs and health care costs. Leader Thune needs to sit down with us and negotiate a bipartisan bill that meets these needs in order to get something to pass. On the other thing, on Epstein. So I just filed an amendment to the NDAA bill that would require the Attorney General to release all of the Epstein files. It's the same exact language as the House discharge petition, and something that Senator Merkley has proposed as well. There's been so much lying, obfuscation, cover-ups. The American people need to see everything that's in the Epstein file, and my amendment would make that happen.
How were you able to file the amendment? Was the tree not filled, or?
That is correct.
So
You're a very astute.
I'm a rules nerd.
Yes.
Leader Schumer, what would you say? What would you say to Republicans who might say that filing cloture is a hostile act? And are you worried at all that this could potentially jeopardize or derail?
You talking about Epstein?
Yes.
Okay. Look, the bottom line is the American people need to see this. Donald Trump has lied about this. There was no picture. There was no drawing. There's been so many lies, so much prevarication, so much cover-up. The American people, Democrats, Independents, Republicans, are demanding it be made public, and it should be. We hope Republicans will vote for it. They should. Yes.
Why? Democrats had control of the White House and the DOJ for years and never asked for this. Why now?
Look,
why didn't you do it then?
it's become so apparent that they're lying about it in every different way, and the demands of the American people are so great, and you had all the different people come down and testify and this and that. The need is greater than ever now. Yes, yes.
If Republicans voting down your amendment, or if they figure out a way to avoid a vote on it, what does that say?
It speaks pretty badly of them.
Leadership.
Yes, yes.
On spending, are you saying you're opposed to a clean seal?
Look, the bottom line is that the bill they proposed can't get our votes. It doesn't meet the needs of the American people, plain and simple.
So, Mr. Leader, can you talk about your meeting that you're going to have today with Leader Jeffries, how you guys are trying to get on the same page? And
Leader
the ACA
we're not
subsidies
trying
have
to
be
get
part
on the
of
same
CR.
page. We're on the same page. We've discussed things regularly. We talk several times a week. We both agree, A, there needs to be a bipartisan bill with real Democratic input. Why? Because the American people are hurting in terms of higher costs, and particularly in health care, and we need to deal with that issue. Their proposal doesn't do that.
So does that mean
Okay, no, one more. Yes.
So Leader Thune said yesterday that ACA credits are off the table, the extension of the ACA credits. Does that make a deal impossible on your point?
The American people and many Republicans are demanding that this be part of it, but look, what we said is we have to meet the needs of the American people. That has to be in the bill. Their proposal does not do that.
ACA subsidies, ACA subsidies need to be in the bill, just to clarify. Can you guys clarify?
Every time someone gets close to uncovering what's really inside those files, the story suddenly shifts. One day it's under investigation. The next, it's classified for privacy. The excuses keep piling up. But Schumer's amendment isn't a request. It's a legal hammer aimed at the door that's been locked for far too long. And that's exactly why it's sending shockwaves through both parties. The timing couldn't be more deliberate. He attached his amendment to the National Defense Authorization Act, a bill that always passes, a bill that funds the military, a bill that nobody dares to block. By hiding transparency inside something untouchable, Schumer just forced the system's hand. If this amendment passes, the Attorney General won't have a choice. The Epstein files will have to be released, unfiltered, unedited, and undeniable. But let's step back for a moment. Why would a senator suddenly make this move now, after years of silence from both sides? The answer might be simpler and darker than most realize. The lies have stacked too high, the disinformation too loud, and the American public has reached its breaking point. The longer these files stay hidden, the more fertile the ground becomes for conspiracy, confusion, and manipulation. The longer secrecy wins, the easier it is for the guilty to disappear in the noise. For years, those files have been treated like a state secret, buried deep, hidden under the label of national security or privacy concerns. But everyone knows what's really at stake. The names inside those documents aren't random. They include some of the most connected people in the country: executives, financiers, public officials, and more. People who had no reason to ever cross paths, except through one man and his network of privilege. And while the world remembers the crimes, very few have seen the evidence that explains how he got away with it for so long. And that's why Schumer's move feels like a direct strike at the heart of power. He's not targeting political rivals. He's targeting the machinery of silence, the pattern of delay, redact, and deny. And by putting the order in writing, he's giving the Attorney General a choice that can't be avoided: release the truth, or be remembered as the one who helped bury it. The language of the amendment is clear. Every file, every transcript, every investigative note related to the Epstein case must be made public. Not just summaries or selected excerpts, the full record. It's the kind of transparency that Washington usually avoids because it doesn't just reveal the guilty, it exposes the enablers, the people who looked the other way, the ones who had the power to act but didn't. And that's exactly why the backlash came so fast. Within hours, Republican leadership was calling it a hostile act. They warned it could derail other negotiations, as if the truth itself were a threat to stability. But here's the real question: hostile to whom? Because if releasing evidence of a decades-long abuse network is considered hostile, then maybe the hostility isn't coming from the truth. It's coming from the fear of what it might reveal. Still, Schumer didn't back down. When reporters pressed him on whether this could jeopardize ongoing deals, he didn't flinch. "The American people need to see this," he said. All of it. And the more he spoke, the clearer his strategy became. This isn't about scoring political points. It's about restoring something far bigger: public trust. For years, both parties have treated the Epstein files like toxic waste. No one wanted to touch them. But the damage of silence has now become greater than the damage of exposure. When asked why Democrats didn't push for this earlier, Schumer didn't deflect. He admitted the demand wasn't what it is today. People weren't ready. But now, he said, the lies have become impossible to ignore. The flood of fake images, fake quotes, fake timelines, all of it created to confuse the public and make the truth too messy to follow. It's classic misdirection. When the facts threaten power, power creates chaos. But this amendment cuts through that noise. It says, stop guessing, stop speculating. Here's the evidence that there's something poetic about that. For years, the Epstein story has been a graveyard of accountability. People resigning quietly, cases sealed, witnesses discredited. It's a story where wealth bent justice until justice stopped fighting back. But this amendment changes the rules of that game. It forces everyone who benefited from secrecy to face daylight. It doesn't just expose crimes. It exposes the culture that allowed them to happen. And at the center of it all now stands the Attorney General, Pam Bondi. Her role is about to become one of the most scrutinized in modern political history. Because if this amendment passes, she'll be the one holding the keys to a vault the world has been demanding to see. And her decision, whether to obey the law fully or to drag her feet, will define her legacy. Bondi isn't a newcomer to controversy. She's built her career defending powerful allies and navigating scandal-ridden waters. But this situation is different. There's no safe option here. If she releases the files, she could ignite a political earthquake. If she stalls, she becomes the face of obstruction. Either way, history is watching, and make no mistake, this isn't just about paperwork or transparency. These files are a roadmap of how influence moves in silence. They document the connections between money, law, and media that made accountability impossible. They show how the same people meant to protect victims ended up protecting predators. And now, The most guarded secret in modern politics might finally see the light. The stakes couldn't be higher. Because once those pages hit the public eye, it's not just reputations on the line, it's institutions. The justice system, law enforcement, political parties, even media organizations that once decided which stories were safe to cover. The truth doesn't just reveal what happened, it reveals who looked away. And that's what makes Washington nervous. Behind closed doors, staffers are already scrambling. Lawyers are drafting talking points. Spokespeople are preparing statements about privacy rights and ongoing investigations. It's the same script we've heard for years, but this time, it might not work. The American people aren't buying excuses anymore. Because every time a door closes, every time a file stays sealed, it sends one clear message. That power protects itself before it protects the truth. That Schumer's amendment flips that message. It's saying the era of selective transparency is over. The American public isn't just asking politely, it's demanding receipts. And once those receipts drop, they won't be easy to ignore. So, what happens next? If Congress votes to support this, we could see the first complete, unredacted release of the Epstein investigation. Names, communications, evidence, everything. If they vote against it or bury it in procedure, it'll send an equally powerful message that secrecy still rules over justice. There's no middle ground anymore. And that's the moment we're in, a moment of moral clarity. Because this story stopped being about one man long ago. It's about what happens when institutions become complicit, when accountability becomes optional, and when silence becomes the default language of power. The truth is simple. No democracy can survive when truth becomes negotiable. You can't preach justice while hiding evidence. You can't demand trust while refusing transparency. That's why this vote matters. Because it's not just about exposing names. It's about deciding whether truth still has a place in American law. That if Congress chooses to block the release, it won't just be a political move, it'll be a confession. A confession that protecting the powerful is still more important than protecting the public. And if that happens, the outrage won't fade. It'll grow. Because once people realize how much has been hidden, silence becomes impossible to maintain. So here's the real question. Will our leaders finally stand with the people, or will they side with the system that's been protecting itself for decades? Because the moment this amendment hits the floor, every vote will reveal exactly where they stand. No more speeches, no more deflection, just yes or no. Transparency or secrecy. Accountability or privilege. The Epstein files aren't just documents. They're a mirror. And what's reflected in them might change how we see justice, power, and truth for a long time to come. If you believe those files should finally be seen, if you believe sunlight is still the best disinfectant, and if you believe truth should never be treated like a threat, then make sure more people hear about this. Share this video, hit subscribe, and keep the pressure alive. Because silence only wins when we stop demanding answers. And this time, the truth is closer than ever.